Wolves are in the market for a left-sided centre-back to cover or rotate for Totti Gomez. Now, there are a lot of names being bandied around. However, Lloyd Kelly is one of them. Now, a lot of people aren't a fan of this deal. I'm going to tell you in this video why I think it's a decent deal, why I don't think it's too bad, and what I like about Lloyd Kelly and how I think he could fit into Vitor Pereira's system. So let's get straight into this one. Now, why do I like Lloyd Kelly? I think it's a really good signing in terms of the fact that he's going to be relatively cheap. I reckon Wolves could pick him up for around 12 to 15 million pounds, which is in and around the range they've been shopping in all summer. You think of John Arias being similar. Fer Lopez isn't too much higher than that as well. And generally, I think that's probably a smart signing. I also think Lloyd Kelly's got the quality and the ability to displace Totti as well, in my personal opinion. So I think it would make complete sense. And of course, he's a homegrown player, and we've seen him in the numerous leagues now. We saw him at Bristol, Bournemouth, Newcastle, and of course now at Juventus. But if we just take a look at his 24-25 Serie A stats, it's relatively impressive in terms of the things that I would like to look for that side of, that left-sided centre-back for Wolves. Now, as you can see here, in the top 8% for touches in the attacking penalty area, so he is a box threat. To a degree, he is a box threat. Now, a lot of them, of course, have come from corners and stuff like that, but for me, 1.60 per 90 of touches in the attacking penalty area is really impressive, and something that Wolves massively lacked last season was stature in the box. And I think, barely did they score a corner. I think of the game against Crystal Palace where they scored two, but generally Wolves are really poor from defending and attacking set pieces, so I think that offers a fair bit for them going forward if they were to bring Lloyd Kelly in. And then, of course, he's received 2.31 progressive passes, which means he's receiving the ball 10 yards higher than the ball started, and he wants to get on the ball higher up the pitch and drive with it, and we know that's one strength of Totti's as well. That's something that Totti does really well. Now, I'm also impressed with regards to winning 4.98 clearances per 90. Now, he's in the top 21% for that, and that's really impressive to me as well. I think, especially when Wolves are going to be under the cosh as much as they am, I think it would make complete sense to sign a defender like him who knows when to get rid of it, but also knows when to play the ball and can play the ball to a good level. And then, of course, he's in the top 11% for aerials won in the Serie A as well last season. 3.2 per 90. Again, as I've said, Wolves lack physical stature in terms of aerial duel winners. They just do. It's just something that they've never been really brilliant at. And I do think that Lloyd Kelly would add to that in abundance, to be honest, and be a really useful asset for them going forward that way. Now, if we just take a deeper dive into it, as you can see here, it's relatively similar to what we've just spoken about. But, again, he's attempted 25.41 short passes, per 90, and he's completed 23.54 of them on average, which, again, really impressive. His passing is something that I really like about Lloyd Kelly as well. And as you can see here, this is a great statistic. 4.8 passes into the final third, and that just shows you that he wants to progress the ball, he wants to get it forward. He's not one of these players that's going to particularly get on the ball and drive with it that much, but he's one of these players that wants to have it in the higher up areas and sort of pass and dictate from there. He's not necessarily a ball carrying centre-half, like Totti is really. And then as you can see here again, crosses, 1.24. Now, this will be slightly inflated given the fact that he had played left-back at some points last season as well, of course. But it's definitely something to consider. And the fact that he can play left-back / probably wing-back, because he has got a decent delivery on him, I think is another plus point for him, and why I think he would be good for Wolves going into next season. Now, as you can see here, this is Lloyd Kelly's Serie A season heat map from last season, and he only played 12 games in the league, which is just absolutely ludicrous in itself, really. But we will speak a bit about that in a minute. Now, as you can see, again, as I've said, it's relatively similar to Totti Gomez's one, except he does defend the box more often and better. And I do think, again, with Wolves being a side that look to be under the cosh this season, in my personal opinion, and in most people's opinion probably, I do think that's going to count for a lot of good player that can defend the box well, can defend. Agbadou last season was absolutely outrageous when it comes to defending the box. I think he had 12 interceptions in his own penalty area, which is just absolutely ludicrous, really, given the fact that obviously Wolves were under the cosh so much, but he was so effective in defending the box, and I do think that Lloyd Kelly is massively great at that as well. And as you can see here, he even likes to drift into that midfield, which, as we saw with Aït-Nouri, he was very comfortable in that area. And if Lloyd Kelly did come in and there was an injury to Wolfer, or perhaps Bueno goes out the door, which it could still happen, then you've got that option of playing Lloyd Kelly in that role for a more defensive-minded wing back, and then you could obviously go forward on the other side depending on which right wing back Wolves do bring in this season. But equally, like I say, I think he's so good in these areas, and of course in these areas, which is something that I think Wolves should be looking for. A player that is comfortable on it, wants to get on it in the opponent's half, and also wants to drive forward with the ball in their own half and make things happen, because that's very similar to Totti Gomez, and at the end of the day, that's the type of profile for me that Wolves should be looking for. Robert Renan, very similar to that. Callum Doyle, again, very similar to that, who I do think Wolves should have gone for anyway, but they haven't made any moves yet. But I just think that's food for thought. But what are the drawbacks of Lloyd Kelly? Now, of course, it's not the most attractive signing, not the most attractive name, and people will be frustrated at the links, to be honest. And in terms of the injury history, I mean, we just look at it here. It is absolutely ridiculous, really, if we're being completely honest. As you can see there, missed 2 with a hamstring injury last season. He missed an absolutely insane amount of games for Bournemouth from 2019 all the way to 2024. And generally, that is a massive worry. When you look at it as well, a lot of them are recurring injuries. As you can see, hamstring, ankle, muscle, hamstring, muscle. It's a lot of similar injuries, and even obviously the most recent one being a hamstring muscle injury. So there is a lot of things to worry about with Lloyd Kelly when it comes to injury. But I do think if you're having a player that's not playing as frequently, and you can regularly be rotating for Totti because they play so similarly, I do think it's not going to be that much of a concern, because ultimately he won't be playing enough to get injured a ridiculous amount. Although, of course, you could use that argument as well last season, given the fact he played 13 games in all comps for Juventus and still managed to get injured for 16 days. So there is that, of course, as well. And the Premier League is more intense, and obviously, his body just hasn't been able to handle it, really, as we can see from the injury history, which I think is pretty crazy, because the fact that he didn't get any injuries at Bristol City before he went to Bournemouth, and then all of a sudden it was just constant injuries. 139 days, 103 days as well. So it's not like they're not significant injuries. They are significant injuries, and I do think that's something to consider. And it probably will be a massive drawback for Wolves fans as well, and I completely understand that. However, again, with Lloyd Kelly, one thing I like about him is his physical stature. He's 1.89 metres tall, which means he's absolutely massive, really. He's a big unit. But the fact that he is so good on the ball for someone his height, and as I've said, someone that won't be in the team every week, won't be guaranteed to start every week, but he wants to come in. I'd assume he wants to come back to England as well, given the fact that he's been ultimately linked, and he's been linked to a few clubs now as well. But given the fact that also he's not playing a hell of a lot at Juventus, and I don't think Juventus fans will be that sad to see him go. But again, that means I think Wolves could pick him up for a reasonably decent fee, and I do think it would be a very smart signing. As much as I know most of you probably will grumble at the prospect of it. Now, if you did enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate it if you would like the video, share it with your friends, because I love seeing all the positive reactions on Twitter and stuff like that when new people find the channel. It's absolutely lovely to see, and it really does mean a hell of a lot to me, so thank you all for that. And of course, subscribe to the channel, because we are now, I think we're about 75 subscribers away from 2,000 subscribers, and that was the goal before the start of the Premier League season. So we've got a few days to get it. We've actually got today and tomorrow to reach it. If not, it's not the end of the world, but it would be absolutely incredible to try and reach that goal that we set. It was a very tough goal to reach, but it would be incredible if we could do it. So thank you all for the support on the channel recently. It means a hell of a lot. If you haven't already as well, check out my live streams, because sometimes they don't pop up on the main homepage of my channel, but I also do live streams very regularly, sometimes with guests. The most recent one was with Dan from the Wolfpack podcast, so I'm sure you'll enjoy that. And like I say, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment below what you think about Lloyd Kelly and you think about Wolves' window so far. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.